Hello, everybody. Welcome back to episode 84 of the Snapshot. I'm Brendan Patrick, joined always by Marvel Stat Phenom Cam Best, and we are recording a bit early because I'm actually leaving for a trip tomorrow. So, recording this on a Wednesday. Kate Bishop just came out. Marvel Boy just came out. How are they hitting for you? Is Zoo finally a playable archetype, or are people kicking sand and ruining your fund?
No, Zoo's good. I think Zoo is just in this weird space where it is a deck that can be good, but the better it is, the more people counter it, and the counters are available to it. Like, one weakness that current Zoo decks have is they have to run Kyera, which prevents them from running their own tech. They don't really get to be a Shadow King deck when they're a Marvel Boy deck. And so one of my friends climbed to rank 1 just playing like the world's most dumb wave onslaught tribunal deck because they can't do anything about that. Yeah. They don't have any possible ways of interacting with that. And so, like, whatever form Zoo takes, it is limited by the fact that you can only run 12 cards. And so you have to make sacrifices somewhere, whether that be allowing yourself to be Killmongered or allowing yourself to be Living Tribunal or allowing yourself to whatever it is, right? And so I personally am of the opinion that Zoo is, if I worked for Second Dinner, I would be like, we should make Zoo the best deck as much as we can, because that is a metagame that is interesting and moves every single time. So I'm actually a big fan of Marvel Boy. He seems like a really strong card. I am not sold on any of the permutations of him outside Zoo, but I think a lot of that is just because they're not polished yet. And I think maybe we'll be able to find something that isn't Zoo that does make sense for this card. But I worry if I'm ever playing like a Marvel Boy non-Zoo deck that I might just get run over by the people who are playing Zoo decks. And so it's like, because they're doing the thing I'm doing, but a little bit better. And so I haven't really squared that circle yet. Maybe Loki or something to square that circle. I don't really know. I'm interested in trying to find out. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now in terms of Marvel Boy, at least.
Yeah. What about Kate Bishop? So I haven't really played with Marvel Boy yet, by the way, bro. I was 4-banging in the keys this week, and it hurt twice in a row. 4-banging in the keys.
But you got my avatar though.
Yeah,
the blob with like 8 chins.
I did.
I'm using that guy now. That guy rocks.
Once again, there was a variant in the Spotlight Cache that I was like, that'd be cool. If I got that first, I'd be cool. I'd be happy with that.
You mean the Red Hulk one though? You don't mean the blob?
No, I mean the blob.
You mean the blob? You're with me on the blob.
So then what happened is I get a random card.
Nice.
And then I get Red Hulk variant. I'm like, fuck, now I don't want the variant. I want the card. And then I get the variant and I don't feel good about it. And then I get Marvel Boy. Bro, you can't back to back be 4-banging in the keys. It's hard on the wallet, you know what I'm saying?
I feel like 4-banging in the keys is like, it's slang for something in Florida that I don't want to know what it is.
It does sound very Floridian.
Yeah. I don't. It's a Florida thing, I guess.
So what about Kate Bishop? Because I've been playing some Kate Bishop decks. I was playing something that was cooked up by our friend Jeff Hoogland, and it was pretty fun, to be honest, with Black Swan and a little bit of Clog in there. I've seen more heavy Clog lists as well. I mentioned I was really excited for this card because it reminded me of, specifically Nico Minoru and kind of the random generation effect, and I do really like those cards. I would say it's kind of itched the same spot, I guess. Not as much, because Nico is like, the effect you get from Nico is, it feels a bit more dynamic, because like the way that the Nico effect interacts with every other card is different. For the most part, I think it's a bit different than sort of the arrows that you get for the most part, which is just like, oh, plus more powers is full, move a card here, or of course the acid arrow that just puts the negative ability. So it hasn't been the same as Nico for me, but I do really like the card. I
have been playing her most successfully in Werewolf Bounce, which already had a Clog sub-theme with White Widow being able to be bounced and Viper and Hood stuff occasionally. And so I have Viper, Hood, I have White Widow, and I have this card now, which means that much of the time I am genuinely able to fully Clog a lane. And not in a way that actually ends up legitimately hurting me all that much. It is quite interesting how, the downside of like Green Goblin type stuff is it can get clogged and stuck in your lane. And like White Widow being able to bounce that kind of stuff, being able to like pick up the -2 if it doesn't go over, stuff like that. There's a lot less downside risk in clogging now, I feel like. And I think, that's the number one thing that I found with Kate Bishop is she lets you free roll more clog in shells that were already able to meaningfully free roll clog.
Yeah. So, how you enjoying Zoo? Because Zoo is an archetype that you famously, I think you're actually called out in this podcast being a fake Zoo enjoyer. How's that Zoo enjoyment going
I am not
now?
a fake Zoo enjoyer.
How's it going now?
Zoo is good and will end up being just good, I think. I think that's fine for a deck like that to be just good. I think it's actually probably objectively desirable for a deck like Zoo to be just good, because it's such an easy thing to make sense of at the top of a metagame. The better a deck like that is, the easier it is for the rest of the metagame to sort of flow from that. And what I mean by that is, I typically think of metagames in a game like Snap as something that extends outward from a starting point. Like previous metagames, for example, we had the RSM decks, and then how do you beat the RSM decks? You beat the RSM decks with Thena stuff, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Things sort of spiral outwards. And I think Zoo is a great place to start at if you're looking for a fun, healthy, engaging metagame. I will say the mirrors do feel a little bit like mirrors. There is that. But, you don't have to opt into mirrors. You have control over that.
So we are recording this on a Wednesday, so we haven't given the meta, time to percolate.
Correct.
But do you think that Marvel Boy Zoo decks are on top at the moment? They will remain there for the next, 5 days potentially.
I don't know. I think it would be fair to say that right now, but I think a lot of that is just new card exists and we play it, right?
I haven't ran into as many sort of tech card, try to kick down your sandcastle decks as I would have expected. I would have expected mono Killmonger, stuff like that, maybe some Shadow King. I haven't ran into too much of that. You maybe have.
I have ran into less than I expected.
Yeah, so it makes me wonder about its efficacy into something like Zoo. Would you just rather be the Zoo player in this meta, or would you rather be tech card soup?
I think I would rather not be a tech card player and rather just play something that Zoo can't interact with. I think the Living Tribunal stuff that KX used to hit rank 1 was actually pretty inspired, where it's just look, everyone is playing this dumb points deck. I'm going to play a dumb points deck that goes a little taller. Suck it. Or Clog, right? Just do something that's Zoo has no tools to deal with in any way, because the tools they have are invested currently in preventing themselves from getting blown out by Killmonger. So that's what Marvel Boy wants you to invest in. And you can't really invest in Shadow King if you're going to be a Marvel Boy deck. And it's hard to invest in Shang-Chi because he's really expensive. And so you end up in these spots where it's this deck kind of doesn't have any ways to interact. So just do something that they can't ever in a million years beat. Just put 40 points in every lane and then they die.
Yeah. I want to follow up because I don't think we ever talked about this. What has been your personal engagement with alliances so far? Did you...
minimal.
Would you create a group, or how did it?
Oh, yeah. I mean, okay. So the first thing, it fucking sucked because I put all my friends in a group and then we ran out of space. And then I had to pick and choose between my friends, which is the worst shit anyone has ever asked me to do. I really hated it. I didn't stream for 2 days because I was fuck this. I hate this game right now for making me do this. And then... since then, I basically just minimally engage. I engage when I want to, when there's good quests to do, and I do what I can. But really, it's just a vehicle for us to share decks and talk, and we all already do that anyway.
Yeah, you do it in Discord as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if people are... Yeah, so I applied to one alliance. I didn't get in, so...
What? Who denied you?
The Lambie series. Didn't deny me. Just left my app and just... in the phone.
Wow.
I know.
Wow. Well, he's not allowed back on here until he rectifies this.
Pretty sure I bought that guy coffee before, too. God damn.
It's crazy. He actually bought me coffee, so, I
paid it forward.
Yeah,
I'm happy to hear none of it came back to me. All right. So this week, we're obviously recording pretty early in the week, so it's going to be more of a listener question sort of episode, and we field those questions both from YouTube on last week's episode, but also in Discord in the Cam Snappers Discord. First, I'm going to go off YouTube here. So the first one is going to be from Philip D. They say Ben and Snap. Brendan, did the Pixelboard shutdown get you to come back from the break? I could definitely tell an uptick in Snap conversations after it was shut down. Love podcast as well.
That's actually a really good point. That is what happened, isn't it?
It is absolutely not. It is a complete coincidence, actually. Yeah. So what I found is that I found Snap most enjoyable when I was playing it very casually, which is not. It is not. Does not work out well with the card acquisition system. Casual play, from my experience, casual play and having all the cards being able to play the decks you want, they didn't really go together. That being said, like I just tried to reposition Marvel Snap as this thing that's like, okay, if I am just like chilling, waiting for something, I'll keep a few games, and yeah, I just try to have fun with it, which can be tough sometimes because there are decks that I do find enjoyable to play, and sometimes those decks are not the best decks in the game. And I think at this point, I tend to play the decks that are actually, I just enjoy playing more than the opposite. Except when Arshan was out, I was like, fuck, I gotta fucking play this deck.
Is that true? Because like I feel like you don't play Galactus. You know what I mean?
No, I would say so. It has been good recently. That's why I've been enjoying the game a lot. Is like pretty much any bounce deck is.
Oh yeah,
like.
no,
yeah.
that yep.
Yes.
I also enjoy that a lot.
I love
like
bounce.
it's sometimes I don't want to think that hard, but one of the things I've realized that's like really important about bounce to me is that it feels like when I play bounce, my opponents fuck up a lot more, and it's because they just don't know what my cards are going to be. They don't know where my stuff is going to go. The hidden information just gives you free wins, and I like free wins.
Yeah, I like thinking that much, to be honest. Like one archetype I really don't enjoy is actually Zoo. Like Zoo,
I figured because I played a bunch of Zoo yesterday. I played a bunch of Bounce yesterday. I enjoyed Bounce a lot more, and I had this thought about Zoo where it was like, they just know what I'm doing every single time. It's very on rails. It's telegraphed.
Yes, and then the mirrors are a pain.
Yup.
Yeah. So Zoo for me is just doesn't really do it. Arshem was okay for a bit, then it got a little repetitive. But after we got Cassandra, like the Athena deck, which I mean had a bit of a bounce aspect to it, was pretty fun. I enjoyed that. But honestly, this Kate Bishop deck that I'm playing with Black Swan and a couple tech cards, most importantly, Werewolf by Night, I've been really enjoying that. Like it's actually pretty fun. But then someone plays Sandman and I just fucking lose instantly.
I mean, I feel like it's actually not that bad against Sandman because you just like recognize that it's Sandman and you're just like, all right, I'm going to play as if it is Sandman and set up such that,
this is my day one where, I'm going for the Black Swan on 5, big hit monkey turn.
Yeah. It's one of those things like, this because you actually like the tournament you went to was in like a potential bounce into Sandman meta, right? So like, that bounce is actually like, if they're playing Sandman, you're actually, I think, favored in the matchup. It's just one of those things where you have to know. And the weird thing about Sandman decks right now is if they're not the Patriot deck, they really look like they're not a Sandman deck. Like, they can just feel like Jeff Nocturne Captain Marvel. You're like, oh, it's Phenom on a bad draw. Sandman, you die. There's like some real hiding being done by the Sandman gamers right now.
That bounce deck was quite different as well because it had things like Iron Man for reach. It also had tech cards in it, where at least some of the bounce decks I'm playing aren't really full of tech cards. I think it was also just fundamentally more powerful. So deploying early, and it also had America Chavez. So you could always like turn 6, you draw America Chavez, and it's just like, all right, that's not bad. After you fully deployed your huge hit monkey combo. I think the current editions of bounce they don't seem as resilient as the old versions, but yes, I think if you were able to recognize early that it was a Sandman deck, you could just still deploy on 5. The loss of that consistent 6-drop that just came to your hand and was always a 6/9 that was a good card.
It was a good card.
You know what's crazy?
Shout out to that card.
What's crazy to me is that they fucking nerfed that card. Like they wrecked that card and then they didn't update any of the bot decks. Like that's so funny.
Yes.
It's
I
so
love
funny
that.
to me. It's just like,
there's a C3 bot that still plays Hawkeye.
Hmm? Really? So
Yes.
just anti-combos? Why does that happen? That's really interesting to me because that seems like I understand how it can happen, but it feels like that sort of attention to detail would be important.
Bot decks as a whole feel like something they don't pay enough attention to at all. It's something that they feel, I don't know, maybe there's like a directive to ignore it.
Yeah.
They recently updated some of them. As far as I can tell, there are bots that now play Series 5 cards. My Discord is full of a bunch of high-ranked dorks. So been taking notes and collecting them. And there's like a Thanos bot. There's a high Evo bot. We're pretty sure the Thanos bot just plays like the deck from like March. Like maybe card for card, right? And the high evo bot exists. There's a Phoenix Force bot that can't play Phoenix Force, and we're not sure what like conditions need to be met to hit them on ladder. We don't really know. I found a ton of them in the maximum effort thing of Deadpool's Diner, and almost none on ladder. And so I'm wondering if maybe they were localized to Deadpool's Diner. If anyone's seen them on ladder and like, I mean, actually has like some real reason to believe that they're a bot. One of the things that's like they tend to be in your CL range and in your rank range. So like one of the real ways I could tell I was playing against a bot while I was on the climb was I would get someone with like 30,000 collection level, maximum rank 69, because I was at 70 something on the climb, and it was like okay, I know what's going. That's a tell, a little bit of a tell. As far as we know, they do not have clan tags right now, and I actually have gotten to the point where I like literally recognize some of the bot names at this point. Now there are people impersonating, and I do understand that. I do think that probably most people saying like, is it weird to say that I feel like I'm probably the foremost expert on Marvel Snap's bots that does not work on second dinner?
Interesting. I mean, I have seen other streamers, like I have tuned into other streams on their climb, and I thought I understood bots pretty well. And I was in the shadow. Like they were like instantly, this is this bot, this deck, and we're gonna play behind by exactly this amount for this long to use as many cubes as possible. And I was like, yes, that makes sense because all that information is easy. You can sort of reverse engineer it and deduce that information. But back when I was like, I don't know, I guess going a bit harder for ranks, I don't remember there being a resource quite like that. Like we were not that sophisticated. So it was. There
was actually. I had it pinned in my Discord. Yeah. We had every bot deck pinned in my Discord.
Yeah, the names. Yeah.
But like I feel like on balance, I personally have probably played against more bots than nearly any other Marvel Snap player, just by virtue of bot farming so much in the beta. I feel like it is something that I actually have a fairly unique set of skills and expertise in the area that many people do not have. And it's weird to think about it like that because it's such a dumbass thing to have any kind of expertise in.
It's crazy, crazy to me that you're like, oh, it's just a part of the game that they neglect for some reason when it's like 80% of the game experience. Like, it's a fucking entire game experience.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they should ask me. They should be like, KM, can you give us decks for the bots? And then I could do that. That, like, why don't they just net deck me? They actually do already. The Destroyer bot, that's for me. They net decked me way back in the beta. Like, that deck became a deck because I wrote a guide to it.
I think that I'm responsible for that based off back-end data. Like, and
I don't think that's reasonable because have you seen the way their back-end data works? So you try to ask it to make a deck. The auto Marvel Boy builds Phoenix Force.
That's funny. I mean, yeah, I think that the bot, it's just wild to me that wouldn't be really high on the priority list because let's be honest, like that is the majority of the game experience for most people.
I don't know if it's the majority.
I think it's the majority for most people.
You think it's the majority? I don't think it's the
for sure.
majority.
If we took the entire,
like 0% of my game experience.
I know, but you're a huge outlier in Marvel Snap.
Sure.
So I think if we took the entire Marvel Snap population, I think it would be the majority of the game experience would be versus bots.
There's this one weird thing that I've noticed the bots do recently, which is they'll use their future sight to throw priority on turn 5. They have like adapted to the fact that people try to throw priority against them.
Yeah.
And part of me wonders if there's like some sort of crude EV calculation where the bots have like somehow whatever machine learning thing they have going on back there has identified that when they lose priority on turn 5, they lose less cubes on average. And so they attempt to do it. That is my current working theory. It is this very weird thing that they like really do use their cheater vision to lose priority on turn 5, which allows them to retreat, ergo making it a plus EV play because they are not allowed to retreat and are in fact forced to snap if they have priority entering turn 6.
There's a good question that comes off the back of that.
They're chafing at their chains.
What do you think is the likelihood that there is a level of machine learning that is sort of being run with these bots. Because if I was to go out on a limb, I would say there is virtually none because of this, just like the lack. I mean, it's just the incompetence all around when it comes to bots. Like the decks are trash. They don't update. Like the gameplay is trash. Like you have these bots frequently that will take something like the hood and put it in an ice box, like turn 1, with no way to kill it. And you're just like, what?
You mean Jotunheim?
Sorry, Jotunheim. Yes. And you're like, what the? Well, like, why is that happening? And they make plays like that like all the time, where it's like that no player ever has made that play, ever. So
yeah,
bizarre.
I think part of the function of bots early is to show you what not to do.
Mm-hmm.
And then late they've evolved as a stopgap for basically people who have MMR outliers, right?
Yeah,
but I think on the whole, it's not machine learning, but something did change. And I feel like this wasn't super recent, but like, as someone, again, I am potentially the foremost subject matter expert on Marvel Snap bots for whatever reason. There was a change. It might have been like an update made by someone on the back end. It might have been like a machine learning thing. It might have been whatever, right? But they do this now. And I will say, if you're going to make me play a bot, don't make the bot force retreat for 2 cubes. Don't waste my time. Either fix matchmaking so I don't have to do this. Let me start an infinite, whatever. Don't waste my time. That's all I want.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. All right, next one. This is going to be a long one. I'm actually going to lean closer to my thing, but it's a good one. I've read it. Has a banana. Hey, guys. I've enjoyed and listened to the podcast since it came out. Want to offer some thoughts. I don't want these to be taken negatively, which is coincidentally exactly what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about here. It's just funny because I read this and I was like, I can't imagine taking this negatively. But he goes, Brennan talked about it being a shame if the message Second Dinner took away from the event in Deadpools Diner was a failed game mode because of the PR it got. He said that he thought it was good and he enjoyed it. Yes, to an extent. However, the first Snapshot episode after DD came out, Brendan's about half an hour angrily crapping on the mode. I forget the exact words, but predatory, angry, poor quality came to mind. I recognize Brendan said he felt positively towards it regardless, but even if I, who enjoyed the mode as a whole, question if I should be enjoying it afterwards, which was the intensity of complaints from an alleged enjoyer of the mode. So I think gameplay of the mode, I would separate a little bit from economy of the mode and just general philosophy of said economy was a bit frustrating to me. I
think this guy has a point.
Yeah,
I think this guy. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think that they do. So, like, it is. If you take my arguments in totality, right, and you don't allow there to be nuance, like, it is inherently hypocritical that I did not enjoy part of it and enjoyed part of it.
No, I don't even think that's like. Hold on, because the way I see it is what they're saying is. You say you enjoyed it, but you spent 30 minutes yelling about how much it sucked. How are you not contributing to the PR backlash that would cause this mode to not come back?
Well, so I don't. But so that's a good question. I didn't have a problem with there being a PR backlash. I think they deserve that for the incompetence they had with the mode, for the issues they had with economy, for how stupid the initial system was, where you would lose like half players at least would like lose all their cubes and not be able to play. I think you deserve a PR backlash from that. What I was saying though, and this person wrote that here, is that in the end, I would feel bad if they took that PR, which was levied at specific criticisms of the game mode, and then in totality said this game is a complete failure. We'll never put another game mode in. And that was what they took away from that. That would be disappointing to me. But I do think the critiques of specific aspects with Deadpool's Diner were very valid.
Because I remember that episode, and I remember being, me personally, kind of surprised at the level of the heat you were bringing. I was like, damn, okay, dude.
Yeah.
And then 30 minutes in, you were like, but I actually like it, though. Yeah. It was like, what the fuck? I get where this person is coming from. I really do.
All the issues that I had issue with, I do have an issue with them. It just doesn't mean that the gameplay itself is terrible, or like the experience as a whole is terrible. because it can be offset. And I also think that if they fix some of the things that I had issues with, I think that the game mode could be pretty fun and pretty good. And overall, I think that I'm also predisposed to try to find a new way to play Marvel Snap that is fresh and interesting, even if it is, I don't know, I just have a proclivity to that. Like, I'm always the one being like, oh, when's Limited coming? When's all this shit?
Yeah, and I'm just like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck. So there's more to this. And then I raise this because Cam mentioned today that Snap discourse online is a degree above reality with its opinion. I wonder if that is just the nature of online communities. They are very intense and detail oriented. What else do I have to grasp onto about someone online other than the detail of the very thing they said before? Everyone is slightly more reactionary because human interactions and interest in working together / community / nuance is really hard to actually achieve. One joke in an online message gets read out of context, and a new lower standard of behavior emerges. That's actually really funny. That was. I change. In my opinion, a change in opinion is hypocritical, or is seen as hypocritical. If someone is not perfect online, their opinion in person gets treated as lesser. In the real world, I wouldn't think much of Brendan having mixed or complex feelings about Deadpools Diner before settling on a positive opinion. But online, well, the natural difficulties people have with interrogating how they feel about things aren't allowed. Simply put, the online opinions are subject to scrutiny way beyond normality. The Snapshot is not a particularly serious podcast in tone, but I think the issue still applies to it. What are you talking about? You guys didn't like the 10-minute UFC 30-second conversation?
We've talked about Marvel's Snap for like 3 podcasts in a row now, dude.
Dead serious. Meanwhile, a chat in the pub could easily have critical jokes or apply nuance to what is being said without it being without it souring a conversation. Real interactions are far more than just words themselves. And then they say, sorry for rambling here. My question after all that is whether you feel, as content creators, a wider obligation to the online community to be more nuanced or cautious or careful or kind with how you talk about Snap. Do you feel the stress of needing to be consistent with what you say as content creators with the biggest reach you have? We don't. We don't have the biggest reach. You are like the most popular, influential kid in the playground talking about what you like and dislike. Do you feel the pressure of knowing you have a huge influence over how thousands of players think about a multi-million-dollar game?
Of course I do. For the longest time, there's this thing I do. Like, I don't know. Maybe you'll be able to see it if you watch my videos. I imagine someone critiquing me, and I'm my own harshest critic. So I imagine what I would say if I was giving a bad faith reading of what I'm saying, and then I try to include sort of bulletproof myself from that in the content that I make. Like I do a lot of not even necessarily defending opinions that I do not hold, but understanding what someone could hear my words as and making sure that that's not what I'm actually conveying. In person, I am actually, God, I'm going to suck myself off right here. I'm pretty good at communicating. Like, most people that know me on the internet make the same comment, which is, I really read everything you say you type in your voice. I've gotten this feedback at work. I've gotten this feedback with friends. I've gotten this feedback everywhere. Everywhere I've ever had to write, I write in a very distinct voice, which is my voice. And I think being able to do that allows me a little bit of freedom in terms of people know what I mean when I say stuff because my voice is so clear and prominent. And when you read it in the tones that are intended, I use a lot of emphasis in order to get at where I would be putting, like, in order to mimic conversational tones so that you understand the exact nuances of the words that I'm saying. Communication with words is already imperfect and pretty bad, and it is awful for stuff to be read out of context and used in a certain way. And I think that is a pressure that I feel in terms of I don't want to shit all over something and then next week I won't care. But like I basically have to, like, sort of, what's the word? Modulate how mad I am at something by how much I'll actually give a shit about it in a month. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I have to grade it on that curve. So however mad I am about something, like, I might be madder in the moment, but I also, like, will I be mad in a month? That's the question I feel like I have to ask myself a lot.
Yeah, I think it's pretty easy to be misinterpreted, but also held to held to an opinion that you may not actually have based on how someone interpreted what you said or how they picked the sentence out of a larger conversation, and that's just the nature of the internet. I think that you have to be somewhat careful of it, but for me, I don't have too much of a filter, and it's not because I don't feel responsible for saying things that are like grossly inaccurate or overly emotional, but I do say, for the most part, I would say, like, largely, especially on the Snapshot, I do say what I think because I don't have anything at stake. I don't have anything at stake. Like, in regards to, like, me critiquing Marvel Snap, like, it's not like there's opportunities, not like I'm a large content creator. It's not like I have a career in the game that I particularly want to, like, continue, or, like, there's nothing that can really happen to me. So I don't really temper any negatives I have about the game, but I also don't temper any positives I have about the game. It is just a bit unfiltered for me. And I know it sounds obvious, but that actually doesn't really work like that with other games for me, to be honest. So for other podcasts, because there are opportunities, and yeah, the only time I temper myself is when I realize that, I might not have enough nuance or experience with something to comment on it, whether negative or positive. Nevertheless, I think that my critique of Deadpool's Diner, I would stand by that for sure. I would stand by that. I was very much critiquing specific aspects. And
do you think maybe there'd be a different way of presenting it?
No, I don't think so. I think that you can, for sure. I don't think I would have presented it differently, because there's only one part of this I think that is misinterpreted. Like, I think that my critiques of Deadpool's Diner were interpreted correctly. The misinterpretation is that I would be disappointed that Second Dinner looked at that part as a failure. No, I want them to look at that part as a failure. I just don't want them to look at introducing a new game mode to players and having the PR blowback be a failure, and to not do it again. Because I think they should do it again, and they should actually learn lessons from this mode. I think that's optimal. Was it overly nice constructive I would say it was constructive criticism. Was it overly nice? No, but that's just sometimes how it is.
Yeah, I think because I also felt the whiplash that they're talking about of, like, 30 minutes of this sucks. And it does seem like if at some point it might be useful to pepper in some context and nuance into that 30 minutes as opposed to at the end. You know what I mean?
Well, that was actually my organic
right.
understanding of my feeling towards Deadpool Diner was dog shit. Actually, it's not so bad.
Yeah, because it's like when you put hot sauce on something, you don't eat the thing and then put the hot sauce in your mouth at the end. You put the hot sauce. It's like you want it spread across it, right? And nuance, I think, works the same way.
Yeah, I'm pretty happy with like the issues that I took with Deadpool's Diner. And I think that if Second Dinner is open to criticism and they're open to learning lessons, that a lot of those issues I think were almost objectively bad, where there's not really a lot of nuance for them to be like, oh, people are just kind of bitching about this. It's like, oh, that obviously that introductory system was not ideal. That's why they changed it. But also, hey, should we give people heads up about this really predatory economy where you can't actually access information on how it works and you have to use third-party resources and people get burned by that? And regardless of whether it's ethical to do that or not, you're just creating feels bad scenarios for your players, and there will be an inevitable PR blowback from that. So I think that they could have, there might be an arbitrage or EV equation there where it's like, okay, we piss them off, we make more money. But I think in the future you could, I don't know, have a bit more, foresight to account for that maybe being frustrating to players and maybe add information in for that.
I'll tell you the one that pissed me off that you pointed out that I didn't even really think of in those terms. Yeah. The sliding scale of gold value.
Yeah.
That fucking sucks. Oh, I hate that so much. The more I think about it, the more mad I get.
Yeah. It's a bummer. Also, you're much more likely to buy gold early than later, I think.
Yep. The more I think about it, the badder I get. That one sucks.
Actually, I have no problem with spending money on Deadpool's Diner, it being a for-profit mode. It was just that I think they went about it in the wrong way. And they can go about it in the right way and I think still make money. There is some sort of equation that's going on there where it's like, how much are you willing to piss people off if it gives you X more money than if you had just been transparent about it? And
right. And it's the same as with the shop, right? One of the things everyone says is like, why won't you just let me buy all the cards? Why don't you just put a catalog of all the cards? And the answer is because they know that'll make less money. Like they just do. They have invested over the course of the gaming industry. Like what was it? What was the DLC for? God, I'm trying to remember the DLC. I think it was a Blizzard DLC that made
you're
more
talking
money
about the
than
Blizzard
StarCraft,
mount, bro. Yes, the in-game shop, the mount. But yeah, I was playing World of Warcraft at that time,
and it made more money than StarCraft 2 or some shit.
Yeah,
just that. Like, there's a reason the industry is built like this, and it's not it is because monetizing the excess incomes of 20 to 35-year-olds who don't have enough money to get a job, don't have enough money to like get a house and start a life and have kids, but do have enough money to spend on video games and gambling.
Fucking relax over there. That's fucking true, by the way. So they all spend their money on fucking parlays and sports gambling and stupid video games.
Fucking do a parlay.
Yes.
Don't ever. That is my one piece of gambling advice, other than like generally don't gamble. Same game parlays, the explosion of parlay betting, this like sort of barstool adjacent internet parlay kind of thing. Holy fuck, you are throwing money away, dude.
Yeah. I think that like this, I mean, also it's like a crypto thing. Obviously there's some people that make out with crypto, but I think if you looked at, I remember somebody was talking about it.
There's some people who make out with casinos too.
Yeah. No, like I'm saying that I'm about to say something negative about it. So obviously there's people that made money and they'll say it online and they'll be able to show it. But I think it was something like, obviously the market's down right now, but like the average of like, if you had sort of been into like Bitcoin and ETH, like I don't know, it was like a few years ago. If you just been in like, I think in very, very safe blue chip stocks, you would have actually outperformed that. But the problem is like people look at, and this is getting a little bit deep, and obviously I'm an idiot and I don't know what I'm talking about, but people look at the cost of housing and the cost of like trying to be a responsible adult in, well, this country and a lot of countries, and have, asset in the market so you don't get just destroyed by inflation. And like, what fucking $2 million for like a shithole, like, or $1 million or 600, like it's so far away and inaccessible that like it's way more easy to be like,
it doesn't seem like a bad idea to throw $50 on a parlay, because what is that $50 going to help you get to $1 million? What the fuck are we talking about here?
Yeah. And and honestly, I don't know if I just had a coherent description or argument of it, but I mean, even if I did, like I suffer from that. Like throwing away $20, and I don't mean this to say in an arrogant way, on like a video game, it's not a good idea for me. It's a bad strategic decision, but it doesn't really affect me. The problem is like if I do that in a million facets of my life, every day, every week, every month, it is bad for me.
Yeah, and like every big industry boom has been on the back of that disposable income of young professionals, consistently. It is, whether you look at the rise of gambling apps, you look at the rise of crypto, you look at NFTs, it's all the same demographic of people. Yeah.
The problem is like I can afford, the thing is like,
microtransactions are one of those things.
Like I can afford it because you don't have any, like there's no tangibility on like, this like long-term saving, this long-term buildup of asset. And the thing is like, if we just took the number in your bank account, the number out of your paycheck, the number you make per week, it's like, yeah, you can afford it, but extrapolate that over 10, 20 years. It's like, you're just fucking yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
And that's kind of where it's at, where it's like, this is one of those things. The reason it works, the reason they do it is because it works. That's why. The reason there's FOMO in the Marvel Snapshot is because it works. Yeah. We're weird. Humans are weird, and they have a bunch of high-paid psychologist types to part you with your money. They are doing a good job of that almost no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah. There's like this. I don't know. What are your thoughts on the digital payment systems and like the tip being on everything nowadays?
I'm a tipper.
But are you a tipper for everything? Like
I don't do things that like what do you mean? Like I don't really. I feel like I've seen people complain about like being asked to tip for stuff that you normally wouldn't tip for. I have never run into this at all ever.
I have, but I'd have to think of some examples. Basically, there's examples where you pick up a service and almost no human was interacted with that service. Sometimes literally no human interacted with that service, and it will ask you for a tip. So example, but you could argue swing for the cook. So like one time I picked up food from a ghost kitchen. And I went there and it was all bots. It's all bots. Like there's nobody there, and there's just like this tip amount. You have no idea where it goes. Like you didn't receive any surface, and there's no people to be seen. Like, what are you tipping for? And it's just like default. It's just default on there. And obviously they do all the manipulative stuff.
Do it or don't. I don't really care.
It's just I just realized that I pay 15 and 20% on
server.
almost everything. I'm not talking about
absolutely.
I'm not talking about servers, but I realized that on these digital payment platforms like the iPads, like I basically am taking a 15-20% clip on like almost everything I purchase.
I don't think I'm taking it on anything. Like I do a lot of like ordering delivery stuff, right?
Yeah, that's a little bit different. But
yeah, that's
you said you don't
totally
leave your
different
house
because
too much, right?
Yeah, I don't leave my house at all. Why would I leave my house? Why would I do that?
Well, then you haven't encountered the iPad.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm telling you, I haven't encountered this. Like I've never been put in the situation that you're talking about.
Yeah, it's wild. It's like it actually doesn't bother me that much, but I was thinking about it, I'm like, damn, I just have to like account for everything being like 15-20% more expensive.
I don't think it's fair to really put that in the same category as the things we were talking about.
No, I just wanted to get your thoughts because it was like, I hope I don't distract from
it's wildly unfair to put that in the same category as like crypto, NFTs, gambling, microtransactions. Like that's not the same thing.
I don't know. Maybe people have good examples of like basically like you encounter that payment system. There's no human interaction and like ask you for a tip. You're like, what? What? Buy a pair of jeans or something. Anyway, I'm
order that shit online too. What are you talking about? Why do you guys leave the house?
Why do you guys leave the house? Tipflation. All right, I'm gonna pass over to you to get some questions from Discord.
Happily. So I set up a channel in my Discord for 84 questions. This is episode 84. All right. Here's one. You've talked about how the snap economy is in this weird spot where it both gives too much while also not feeling satisfying for many. Understanding that I'm not expecting you to give the perfect or correct answer, what would you do to personally improve Snap's economy? This is from Gynoid Poet. My answer would be I would set a task force in the development and in the design team on how do we buff early game cards and make them actually good. How do we provide people an on-ramp into Series 3? Into Series 4 and 5. I actually think RSM does a pretty good job of this, honestly. But I would be specifically designing for the economy, is how I would put it. This would be a thing that I would be interested in doing. I
personally think that this question needs more nuance, because you have to I think there's a follow-up question. It's like, what are we optimizing for? Are we optimizing for money? Are we optimizing for user experience, etc.? But, without getting into the details of that, and my answer might sound almost unrelated to yours because of that, but I think a lot of the Marvel Snap economy is somewhat rooted in friction and pain points for players, and they use that as a way they kind of like weaponize that to get you to spend more money. But I really don't enjoy it as a person that's like trying to interact with the game. And this comes down to like the catalog, being able to buy cards. It would make potentially less money, like not having access to cards that I have the money to buy that I, quote unquote could afford, and having to wait for them and like missing them. And I just really don't enjoy it. And it's a huge pain point for me. And I understand that the pain point is actually there for a reason, but I don't like that I'm being monetized off of like frustration and FOMO.
Yeah, I can understand that. I can definitely understand how that would be, but like, again, doesn't that exist because that's what makes money?
Yeah, for sure. I wish
like,
that
is that a realistic thing you can
do?
Well, yeah, but like that's monetizing your frustration apparently is the right thing to do. Like,
yeah, I think that's like the dirtiest way to go about it, right? Because like you could look at cosmetics and like a lot of games, and or even like a monthly like a World of Warcraft subscription. I know that's kind of antiquated at this point, but where a lot of other microtransactions are, they're around cosmetics. I know mobile games they're not. Some mobile games do monetize a lot around frustration, but this idea where you like time gate people and kind of lock people out, and it's just you're like trying to create this sense of missing out and this sense of frustration that they can't have what they want, and it hurts my experience overall. I would say that.
I would agree that that's probably true. I'm just not sure that's like a fixable issue.
Yeah, I could take the answer that's like, hey, that's not financially viable. That's why I would ask, like, what are we optimizing for? And what do we answer that?
All right. Next up, we have from Snowpoint. What game/topic would you make content on if not making snap content or Flesh and Blood, Lorcana 4, Brandon/Brendan, notably both of them not your name, because they had Brendan with an O. So that is from Snowpoint. Shout out to Snowpoint. Never spell his name correctly. I highly encourage this.
I got an email today from a sponsorship for one of those podcasts, and they spelled my name wrong, despite my name being spelled correctly in my email address. I thought it was quite an achievement.
But they spelled you lift underscore?
Not that email. Man, that's a little snapshot nugget right there. I just wrote Brandon. I was like, I don't care, but I was just like, damn, it's like literally right above that. Did they say what game, or did they say what
game/topic?
Well, I think like the ultimate nirvana of podcasting is that you find like a group of friends that you enjoy talking to on like a variety of subjects, and then your podcast is basically that, and that is somehow translates into either value or entertainment for other people, because then you're not sort of at the whim of this, this kind of third party thing. I think that, that would be nice if that was possible. Because literally basically what the Snapshot used to be 3 weeks ago, just talking about whatever the fuck you want. Not anymore. That's my podcast.
Yep.
But for a game, if I had to pick a game, probably some boomer Magic the Gathering shit, to be honest.
I personally would like to go on Chapo Trap House. That is my answer.
Okay, can you explain that? What is that?
Left-wing comedy politics podcast.
Okay.
That is if I had a soapbox, that is what I would do.
Are you an avid listener of said podcast?
I wouldn't say avid. My podcast engagement is very much about when I am doing something else. But I really do. There's something that they get right about the way in which a certain sort of brain-wormed internet guy like me thinks. And I appreciate that.
Yeah. I think the reason that I do content or a podcast for 3 games is because I'm actually much less interested in the games than I am the people and sort of the theories behind how to play the games, and I guess what makes you good. Like that's just way more interesting to me. Like the math behind it, the people behind it, and like having conversations. Like if I was playing those games in isolation and I wasn't doing content for them, and I didn't have a social circle centered around them and a lifestyle, then I probably would have dropped a lot of these games way quicker.
Yeah.
It's more about the people.
As far as games, I don't think I go anywhere outside of card games.
Card games. Yeah.
Monster Hunter, if that would be viable. Monster Hunter is my first gaming love back in 2006 on the PSP. So
I've had a lot of gaming loves. Yeah,
Monster Hunter was my like not my first game, but the first time I was like, holy shit.
Yeah. I actually don't play video games anymore. I know Marvel Snap is a video game, but
that's not true. It's actually a microtransaction machine.
Yeah, it's a money extractor. Yeah, I'm a huge degenerate. I don't know, something about just how dopaminergic they are. They just kind of like, I don't know why. I'm a person who just gets obsessed with things by nature, and the bad side of that, where I let other things fall away or drop away, and I don't pay attention to other responsibilities, don't really have balance. And I do that with video games. And it's like an issue. So I actually can't. I just stopped playing them like a couple years ago, and it's very, very good. But I'm a big gamer. I was.
From C (Bob Haver). Do you think every card should be playable regardless of series, or is that separation healthy for new player experience and economy, like Quicksilver being an obviously bad card to teach you a lesson in deck building, or Sentinel being a delineated improvement to Shocker? I think the way they do it is healthy for new player experience and economy, and it's actually a lot harder to come up with cards that we can reasonably buff in the early pools that do not mess that experience up.
Yeah, I think Marvel Snap does pretty good of not having strictly betters. It happens sometimes, but if you look at a game like Magic, they do have strictly betters. I know it alternates on rarity, but we kind of have that with series, where you would have something that has a similar or replacement level effect that would just have better stats. And it's very, very rare in Marvel Snap. So I think that they want cards to be playable, but the definition of playable is very nuanced, right? Like I think all the cards in Marvel Snap are playable. Like you can play them, and you could actually probably get infinite with almost any card in the game. Can you compete a high infinite ladder? That's probably not.
Any advice for someone looking to get into making content for Snap aside from don't from EK August? Figure out what it is that you offer that other people don't.
That's a niche right there. Yeah.
It's not that, yeah, like why, like, I don't know a better way to phrase this, but a lot of people get into content because they want to be somebody, but won't put in the work to actually make themselves competitive with somebody. And I realize I am probably the last person to lecture about how to make yourself stand out in the Marvel Snap community, because my content is very bare bones. I have a background, I have a bed sheet, I talk, right? But my content is driven by my personality. And even someone like me, who is what I would describe as lo-fi compared to someone like Cozy, who is the production value of an actual YouTuber, right? Even someone like me, I have a video coming out every day. I have multiple hours of Twitch streams. I am working on moving into shorts and TikTok. I'm working on getting a VOD channel set up. Even someone like me who does the most actual gaming in Marvel Snap and the least sort of YouTube content maintenance branding stuff, it is still a full-time job. And so if you want to do what I do, I would suggest being better at Marvel Snap than me, working harder than me, or talking better than me. Those are your options.
Yeah, there's like a few axes to compete, and a lot of them are pretty unreasonable. Like, have high production value. If you don't know shit about YouTube, that's like almost impossible.
It's insane, right?
I think the most acquirable one is just be very good at the game. Unfortunately, now in the current ecosystem of Marvel Snap content, you got to be really good at the game. There was one point where I'm sure that wasn't the case. And I mean, Cam spoke to like the most important thing by far, in my opinion, was just consistency. You get all these people that, you know, they want to be like, we can just use podcasting. They want to have a podcast because they want people to listen to them. And it's kind of rooted in ego, I guess, which, I mean, it probably is still to this extent, you know, at this level, like when we're this late. But I don't know how it happens. It actually blows my mind with like how easily people quit podcasting, because you can't just like, it doesn't happen overnight. And as soon as like, once you start, they say miss one episode, 2 episodes, then they're missing an episode here, there. And I think if you want to be successful, that is the worst thing you can do. If you want to just have a podcast for fun where you talk to your friend and maybe a few people listen to it, that's a fine approach. But I'm just always so surprised, because it's now been 3 different games where everyone just, it's not like YouTube. I guess YouTube people take big breaks, but like everyone just quits. It's crazy to me.
I do a lot, for the record. If you are someone who is like competing with me on the be better than me axis, I actually do a lot to try to like boost creators who are lesser known. And there are like tons of success stories from that, from like, you know, generally trying to get eyes on someone. But like, the thing is, I don't deserve credit for that. Those creators do, because it's their consistency and their skill and their personality that has allowed them to shine when given the opportunity. And I think that you basically need to figure out why it is that someone would want to watch you instead of anyone else. Yeah. And there needs to be an actual compelling reason there.
I would caveat that, though. I would say I think that's important, but I'll also try to not let yourself get like analysis paralysis. Like, I think if you focus too much on how to be like in the perfect niche that fits you, or to differentiate yourself, I think it's always hard to take the first step, and not enough people do. I think they get caught up in like trying to make sure it's all perfect first, and then they end up doing nothing, which, I mean, maybe that's correct, but
right. But it's like, okay,
it's very overwhelming at first.
The axis I'm most qualified to talk about is be good at the game. Right? That's the axis I'm most qualified to talk about, right? So let's start there. Okay, so you're not very good at the game. You're like a mid-infinite player, I don't know, 7,500 SP, right? Why? What your pitch then is going to be like, oh, I'm the guy who plays fun decks, right? I'm off meta. I experiment. What makes you better at doing that? What makes you better at doing that than Binks? What makes you better at doing that than Cozy? What makes you better at doing that thing than them? Right? And that is the hard thing to answer, I think, for a lot of people, where you are competing with people who have an entrenched systemic advantage. And because of that entrenched systemic advantage, I don't know, one of the things I'm proudest of as a creator is that I've been able to help other people become creators. I'm really happy with that. But it's very hard to do unless they're serious about it and they have a real pitch. When I send someone over to Yo Woody MJ or Husky Puppies or KX4N and I put my endorsement behind that, that only works if they are what I say they are. Really good, really smart, really worth listening to. If you come to me for the things that you get out of me, net decking and seeing the top of the meta and figuring out what people at the high end are doing, you will get those same things from them. So I can actually meaningfully endorse in that way. What I can't do is if you are someone who's like 7,500 or whatever, and you're a for fun content creator, me endorsing you won't do shit. Because that's not what people watch me for, right? And it's one of those things where it's like, I can only help people who are similar enough to me that I know my audience will actually like them. And I struggle with that sometimes because it's like, yeah, it's sort of like not helping anyone at all because they already had all the skill set. All I do is be like, hello, I'll point that direction. There you go, you know? And it's weird because I think that all these people would have succeeded on their own anyway and do succeed on their own. And they do that because they work hard, they are good, and they provide a valuable service. And I don't know a better way to say it, but like, I'm not really watching you if you're, 7,500 SP. I'm not gonna. There's going to be plenty of people who won't. So you need to convince me that I should. How are you going to do that?
I think that you should win an Infinite Conquest and go talk shit on Twitter.
I mean, look, dude, having a personality, I think you could point at like multiple people. I think Doug Pie and Interrobang are great at giving you a reason to watch that. And these are people, they don't even have a cam. There's no face cam. There's nothing. But they're great at giving you a reason to watch. They're engaging. There's discourse happening. Like, they give you a reason you could be a part of a community. They give you something there, right? And then there are people who I haven't seen do that in a meaningful way. And I don't know, like you need a reason. People need a reason to show up and a reason to keep coming back. And me personally, one of the things that I struggle with is I don't think I give people a good enough reason when I'm losing. I think when I'm losing and I get mad and I start acting shitty, that sucks. And I hate it. And I really try to work on it. And sometimes it still gets me, you know? But one of the big reasons that I try to work on not doing that is because I think I will be better if I am more like someone like Dara, who is so easygoing and so easy to watch. There's never any bad moments there. And I think that's like, you can offer that, you know? I don't know. Long diatribe, all to say, figure out what it is.
Did you imagine?
No, it's not. Don't.
I know. Just would have been a funny way to end it.
Figure out what your pitch is. Why should someone watch you instead of anyone else? What are you offering? What is the value proposition? What are you bringing to the table? Because this industry, such as it is kind of only about that. You're competing for attention.
Yeah.
What are the tools with which you are doing that?
10-minute UFC tangents.
John Jones sucks.
Yeah. All right, let's do one more if you got a banger in there.
I'm not sure. I think that was the one I wanted to talk about the most.
Or anything.
Anything. Okay. From Get Wrecked, in the last couple months, which balance change did you like the most and which did you hate the most? I'd have to go back and look at the most recent balance changes. I think easy one for the one I hate the most is the blob nerf. I hate that nerf. I think it is totally unnecessary. Yeah. Easy one for one I like the most is the general removal of Dr. Octopus from being what he was, or I would say maybe the Professor X nerf. Either one of those were big QOL upgrades for me.
I don't know. I feel like I can't really capture the nuance of this question because I feel like it's more important than my answer. But selfishly, I did enjoy getting to play with old Angela again. I think that was something I want to do for a very long time. After it got nerfed, so that was fun for me, even though it was overpowered. Yeah.
What about worst?
What's the worst?
Yeah.
Did you use the word recent? Or did they use the word recent?
Last couple months.
I think that changed to Eliath. That's in the last couple of months. Might be extending slightly out of that window.
What, the buff to make it a 10 power?
No, so it doesn't just kill all the cards.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. I might be extending past that time period a little bit, but you know, they massacred my boy. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you expect anything less?
I expected, I don't know. I didn't expect that, I will say. And that might be because it wasn't even close to being in the last 3 months or whatever. But
I just had to think about, like, what's a not Galactus one that, probably 90% of the player base would disagree with me on.
Yeah, that's a solid one.
Yeah.
That's a solid one for sure. Yeah, if you're looking to farm hate interaction, that'll do it.
The blob one does suck, especially after I got that cool variant.
Yeah, that's one of my it's in the mix of my avatars now. The one where, like, because when I look at that blob avatar, I see, when you look down at your phone or like your handheld gaming console and it's off and you just get the chin view.
Yeah,
that's what I see. That's what I look like.
Yeah. Fuck. Oh man, it's a good one. It's a good one. I was happy to get the variant, not third, but I was like, now. They nerfed my boy right before he came out. I would say I'm interested to see where this, kind of pushing outward a bit because we were recording this earlier. I'm interested to see where this metagame goes. I do think it will adapt away from like pure zoo point slam mirrors.
I do think so as well.
I don't know how long I could do that for if that was like overwhelmingly the best deck.
Yeah, they're not super fun.
Yeah.
But neither is 4 banging in the keys, and we do that too.
Back to back, that's 8 banging. That's not good. All right. Well, if you enjoy this podcast, one thing you do is leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. If I didn't mention, if you need your question read out in next week's podcast, you shoot us a comment on YouTube at youtube.com/@the_Snapshot, Cam SMS, Brent APG on Twitter. Almost a month of Marvel Snap podcasting. Feels weird, but we're getting used to it. Cam is streaming in the evening. Sometimes it's not a hot location.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. If it's not a hot location and it's in the evening, I'm probably streaming.
You said you're looking to get on Shorts. What's the delay?
Oh, I'm on YouTube Shorts. I have a guy that I pay to do them.
Okay.
Because I am sort of capped out on... This is such a weird thing. Sometimes I'll just like have a thing that I know is pretty easy to do that I cannot physically make myself do. Mm-hmm. And Shorts was that thing for me for an extremely long time. So I was like, fuck it.
Shorts sucks. There's nothing fun about that.
It's so terrible. Not fun. And I have no idea what the monetary return is, but I need to at least try. One of the things that I've been noticed is that like we talked about how like YouTube numbers were sort of trending down for me. I did a little bit of a check on other creators and like the rate of gain in subs has slowed. And I think that if that's what's happening, this is the right time for me to increase the scope of my operations, because if I'm leaving money on the table, it's more important than ever to not be leaving it on the table.
Well, for what it's worth, pretty much all of the data points to Shorts having like extremely low conversion rate to subs. Also, the monetary return on them is very low from YouTube ads as well. But they do reach a larger audience. Like your videos. Like you can see it in analytics when they show up in organic or where they show up for new subscribers, but Shorts they really I always feel like they add a tangible level of brand awareness that you cannot get through normal videos. And like you have such a higher potential to go viral on a short, even a Marvel Snap short than you do with a video. And I think that that's relevant. I think the main reason people don't do shorts is because they're time consuming, they suck, and there's no immediate return.
Yeah. I'm also just hoping that if I do enough of them, the YouTube algorithm will be like, hey, he's doing the thing that we like. Let me just put him in front of more people. I'm hoping to like these are sort of like, blood sacrifices to the YouTube gods. That's the level of comprehension I have. I have the rough comprehension of the YouTube algorithm in the same way that a man in 4000 BC had a comprehension of what it makes it rain when he sacrifices a sheep. Like that's the understanding that I have of the YouTube algorithm. So I'm hoping that with my 4000 BC brain, my strategies, I will be able to make that happen. Also, 4000 BC strategies sounds like a sort of paleo conservative consulting group, and I should start that. 4000 BC strategies, where we just our advice is always just club your opponent on the head at the debate.